trusted, Basin proud. You're watching Local 2 News at 10 in HD.
Welcome back, everyone. Chief Meteorologist John Mayer here, and these are the storms that we've been looking at for a good long while now. We still have this system making its way down through the basin, down along I-20, and even a couple of these storms drifting down along I-10, down into the Trans-Pecos. But this has been something out there. We've been dealing with a lot of some strong storms, hail, damaging winds, heavy rainfall. Here's the good news. The warnings are through, at least as far as these storms go. We're no longer seeing severe storm warnings. We're no longer seeing flood issues out there, but with this heavy rain, be ready. If you're going out on the roads anywhere along I-20, just imagine how it is when, you know, there's a light rain outside. This has been a heavy rain all day long, so that means roads are going to be essentially rivers at this point. So just be careful, stay safe. If you have to do any driving tonight, take it slow, and remember to avoid any of those roads where where those water levels get a little bit higher. For the most part, I would recommend, though, just call it a night. Go out tomorrow once we've dried out, because this rain is still continuing to move along I-20, and a couple of storms are actually picking up some steam a little bit further to the south. You can see these two systems, one around Fort Stockton and another starting to drift down to Terrell County. This Fort Stockton storm, though, we're getting some lightning strikes with this one, and we're also starting to see some pretty heavy rainfall just south of Fort Stockton, just south of I-10. As far as whether or not we're seeing any hail with this, we can actually pull up a product and see if we're dealing with any of those hail signatures, because earlier today that was the big issue. Right now, though, really not so much. For the most part, we're not seeing any hail core developing with these storms at this point. And that one that's over off towards Terrell County, that's also starting to pick up steam a little bit. I mean, this one, we're starting to see that elongating just south of Ira Ann, and again drifting down south of the interstate down towards Terrell County, and dealing with plenty of lightning strikes, plenty of heavy rainfall. This is reminiscent of what we saw earlier, and this one actually does have a little bit of a hail core developing with it, a little over a half-inch size in terms of that hail. That's roughly the size of a nickel right now. Now, that's up in the clouds. Whether or not that's making it to the ground, very unlikely at this point, but it gives you an idea of the sort of strength of these storms. I'm sure you've heard the thunder all day long. You've been hearing all of that lightning making its way through, seeing the bright flashes in the sky, and this is something that's been with us for a while. In fact, we've been dealing with a lot of storm reports out there all throughout the course of the day, especially off to the north. That's where we've been seeing most of these storm reports, because that's where these storms all started for us. Actually, up in Lee County is where we were dealing with these storms earlier, up right around Hobbs, and that's where we started to see that hail developing. We saw that hail really starting to pick up to 2 inches or more, and, well, luckily, things are starting to calm down for us. Now just drifting off to some rain as we move through the rest of this evening. I've been here following these all day long, right alongside Jace Menendez, meteorologist in the mornings, and he's actually going to go ahead and take you through a little bit of the history of these storms, what we've seen so far today. Chase?
That's right. Thanks, John. We were seeing a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings, up to 3 at a time. Those severe thunderstorm warnings being issued and then being reissued and then being reissued again, possibly up to 5 times is what we saw out there. The good news is those thunderstorm warnings are beginning to end. They're starting to expire. We're not seeing any more new issued thunderstorms. We were seeing hail out there. We were seeing high wind speeds, and we were seeing lots and lots of rain. We saw hail up to 2 inches north of Pecos, about an inch in diameter down here in Odessa Midland. We saw wind speeds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. We saw even up to 3 inches of rain hitting the ground in parts of Pecos and parts of Odessa Midland as well. So flooding was a concern, but right now all those things are starting to die off. We were expecting them to last until midnight tonight, but it's looking like things are starting to unravel for us. So that's pretty good. John, tell us about those current conditions.
Yeah, Chase, we are still seeing that severe storm risk out there, though. That marginal risk area is still covering the southern basin and the Trans-Pecos. You can see where we had those couple of storms developing down around Fort Stockton, Ira Ann, both in that marginal risk area as issued by the Storm Prediction Center. Again, this is not over yet, but here's the good news. The worst of it is through. These storms, though, still going to continue to drift down to the south. This is one of our models taking us into early Sunday morning, and you can see that rainfall still with us all the way through the early morning hours. Once we get to sunrise, though, things start to calm down, really just some clouds left over, and it looks like the threat for that rainfall really starts to come to an end. But that's not it. Incredibly, we still have more to talk about. Fog, that's going to be an issue for us early tomorrow morning down into the Davis Mountains. If you have to do any driving out around Marfa or Alpine, that'll be an issue as well. Low visibility. Visibility drops dropping down to about 1 to 2 miles out there. That's where we start to see some of that dense fog beginning to develop in this forecast as you get further down towards the southwest. Now, what do we see over the next few days? How does this all start to evolve for us as we move forward? Well, the good news in this 7-day forecast, nothing anywhere near as extreme as what we've seen earlier. We're starting to cool down. In fact, we've got that cold front moving through, dropping our highs down into the 50s, clear skies into Monday, then start to warm up. We start to get a little bit of a roller coaster pattern. We go from the 60s to the 70s to the 60s to the 70s. But notice one thing we're lacking. Unfortunately, we're not seeing any more showers on this forecast, but with all the rain we've gotten today, well, luckily that puts us in a pretty good position moving forward. So the 7-day forecast looking pretty nice, all things considered. We'll have more news coming up after the break.